All right. Are we live? I think that we are. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 3 of The Gaming Grifter, or just Gaming Grifter. I'm yet undecided as to whether or not the will actually be there or not. What I can tell you is we have another banger of a show. Absolutely fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to this one because I've done a little bit of investigative journalism again. I've gone on a little bit of a mission once again, and you'll see the fruits of that. So with that said, I think it is prudent that we jump into the first topic of the day, and this is the one that I did most of my research on. I spent quite a few hours on this one early morning and late last night, and it all was sparked by a tweet that I saw that really set me into this sort of motion of what exactly is going on with the gaming industry. Now, the tweet in question here comes from Chris that asks, why are these color schemes being pushed so hard in Western gaming currently? They're everywhere now. And he's not wrong. If you look at every single game, you will find the same sort of pinkish lighting hue. Now, you could make the argument, well, Akko, it's just what they like. It's just what they prefer. You know, who knows? It could be anything. And to that, I would say, yes, that's kind of what I thought. I just sort of thought that game developers are now far more female, and so maybe women like the pink, and they don't really give a crap about what the boys would want to see in video games, which is usually how that works, right? So it doesn't really matter. But as it turns out, no. I saw a tweet here, or a reply to this tweet, and that's what sparked this entire thing. Fear Lantern that said, it's called bisexual lighting, look it up, it's a thing. And I immediately thought, what? What do you mean it's called bisexual lighting? Well, he was not wrong. Bisexual lighting is an actual thing. It exists. It is something that is used in media consistently to try and sort of, you know, signal that you are bisexual even without saying it, right? And it's a way for, I guess, bisexual people to notice each other, or just to say, look at us, we exist. And if you go through the actual list here on Wikipedia, you will find that it's been used multiple times in media in general to highlight whatever, whatever they want to push. Mostly movies and TV series and some music videos have a lot of this. So this, you might just say, well, okay, so maybe the people who are making these sort of, splash screens, if you will, maybe they're bisexual. Maybe they're just, using their game development as a grinder app to some extent. But no, I don't think it should come, at least as a surprise to anyone, that over the last few years, gaming has taken a significant sort of detour into what we could now call hyper-politicization of the video game industry. It is everywhere. Almost every single game that comes out of the AAA space is politically charged to one effect or another. And it almost always centers around gender, sexuality, and very specifically the erasure of white individuals, but also the erasure of women, more specifically, which is actually the wildest thing to me. Women, specifically white women, are at the forefront of all these ally meetings and all these, sort of pushing progressivism, and yet it is white women that more often than not are the targets of this erasure, where you see it in every single game. I even have quite a few sort of stories today that highlight a lot of the removal from Disney, for example, that is absolutely hell-bent now on removing any and all mention of white people from video games. You have Indiana Jones, Perfect Dark. There's a lot that we're going to be covering today that has to do with this specific topic. And I promise you, This wasn't planned. I didn't look at all the news. In fact, I wanted to make an entire live stream just about this topic because it took me down a lot of different paths, and I sort of had to walk quite a detour in order to figure out what exactly is happening within the gaming industry right now. But you look at female after female after female character, that in Perfect Dark, for example, it's the perfect one, right? So here you have a race-swapped character going from a white character to now not a white character, because obviously that's the new thing. But then you also have, for example, in the new Perfect Dark, that's the new main character. This is the old one. And as you can see, with every single gaming, and we can go through Star Wars Outlaws, we can go through Dragon Age the Veilguard, we can go through game after game after game, and in every single one of these games, what you find is the female characters have their faces more masculinized, if that is even a word. The jaws will be a lot more widened. Oftentimes the body, the shoulders will be more broad, the hips will be brought more in line with the shoulders. So in other words, giving the female characters a lot more of a masculine look rather than what we would consider to be the bog standard feminine look, which is more the hourglass figure, which is what most men, by the way, like. Most men enjoy that. And surprise, surprise, most women do too. Women want to play beautiful characters as much as men want to look at beautiful characters. So, but fundamentally, this is just something that you have to be aware of. So this made me wonder, okay, so if bisexual lighting is a thing, and almost every single new game now has this new bisexual lighting theme around it, what is that? What exactly is the point here? Why are we seeing this push to eradicate whiteness, this push to eradicate straightness? Being straight is almost considered an insult now in video games these days, with almost every single video game hyper pushing the homosexual lifestyle, the bisexual lifestyle, whatever lifestyle, as long as it's not the normal lifestyle, which would be just how normal people for thousands and thousands and thousands of years have sort of, made more individuals, because you kind of need men and women to make more individuals. But never mind that. It all comes down to one thing: propaganda. Now, I've been wanting to make a video about propaganda for months now. I've been sort of passively researching propaganda for a very long time. I've been looking specifically into what is propaganda, how does propaganda operate, what is the success of propaganda, and then what exactly are the limitations of propaganda? Is it possible that there are just certain things that you cannot propagandize people into believing? So I've done a ton of research on this topic, and one of the key things that stand out here, and that I'll say at the offset, in every single society where dictators, as you can imagine, a lot of the propaganda research has to do with dictators, because dictators tend to love propaganda. It's one of the ways in which they get control and gain control and remain in control. And one of the key findings from every single one of these studies that I've read about dictators and the propaganda that they use, one thing keeps popping up, and that is the removal of strong men from society. In every single case, Mao's China, Mao's wife led this entire push to get rid of every single masculine male in China. They were all moved to worker camps or moved out of society to go do menial jobs away from the centers of change. In Uganda, you had the exact same thing. In Cambodia with Pol Pot, you had the exact same thing. Even Hitler had a tremendous push trying to get rid of the strong men within society, sending them to the front lines where they will fight and they will be out of the way so that society becomes more malleable. That is at least what the research tends to show. The men who usually rise up in the face of tyranny are strong men. It's the fathers, the husbands, the men. Young men specifically are the most dangerous to tyrannical governments, because it is young men that once tyranny starts to push, it is young men that will pick up their arms and push back. So there's a very real thing that you kind of want to almost remove from your society, and that is the strength of the man. Now, there's an interesting thing. I was watching this podcast yesterday, Joe Rogan podcast, where he was talking to a dude. It is phenomenal. Let me just quickly see if I can find that for you. Let me just see if I can find that for you. JRE. Who's the guy that he was talking to again? Because this dude absolutely blew my mind. It was phenomenal. It was about 6 days ago. I did do some research on the stuff that he said, but he seems to know what he's talking about. Oh, come on, man. This guy, Mike Baines. So if you have not watched this podcast yet, you absolutely have to. Mike Baines is a lawyer, corporate lawyer, who became very much involved in the censorship programming of the US. Worked at the State Department, worked at the sort of highest levels of these people pushing things. And he mentioned this thing that I then started to look into. In 2013, NATO coins a new term. The term is called tanks for tweets. And effectively, what it means is, it is cheaper to win a war by propagandizing the target market and getting them to elect the leader that you have chosen. That means that your puppet is now in control of the enemy military, and then you don't have to worry about anything, right? You've won the war. Far cheaper than actually going to war. And you can Google this by yourself. Like, it's on their website, FYI. Tanks for tweets. And it basically lays out the entire method of war. How you propagandize the society into electing the leaders that you want so that you can gain the upper hand. So this has become a big thing, and the tanks for tweets is all about social media. It's all about gaining control of social media, gaining control of the media, and then just drip feeding the public with the same stuff over and over again, i.e. propagandizing the people. So I started looking into the effects of propaganda. What does propaganda actually look like? Now, we all know what propaganda is. It is simply shaping people's opinions so they think a particular way, convincing people to support a specific cause or political candidate. This really is the one that we tend to focus on more in the gaming industry, because I think that's what's happening here. It's all about convincing people to support wokeness, to support this sort of new way of living, and then, of course, encouraging people to behave in a certain way. Now, when you go through what propaganda is and the effects of propaganda, you will find that propaganda is actually incredibly effective. When done right, you can get people to do just about anything. But one of the big things that propaganda does is not only does it affect the person's beliefs and attitudes, but it appears as if propaganda has a massive effect on the emotions and moods of people, which is quite insane. From some of the research that I've seen, a society that is consistently under the effects of propaganda will be a lot more what's the word I'm looking for? Depressed. So a lot more anxious, a lot more depressed. And according to one study, at least that I could find, it appears that this depression and anxiety stems from the fact that at the core of your belief, you know that the things that you see and believe are not true. So there's sort of like an internal conflict where you will believe that there is no such thing as a woman because you've been told over and over again there is no such thing as a woman. But deep down in the recesses of your own heart, you kind of know that there is such a thing as a woman, right? And this conflict within you breeds depression and anxiety because you're consistently fighting this sort of battle within yourself, because the act of propaganda isn't a permanent one. It's very important that you know this. The German society at the end of World War II did not hold on to the propagandized beliefs. Once the Hitler regime fell and life sort of returned to normal, very quickly Germans realized, oh, wait, all of the things that we were told was a lie, right? And so they could immediately just continue. Obviously, there were still people who firmly believed in it, but these would be the people that would have believed Hitler's lies, even if they knew it was lies, right? They wouldn't care because they kind of wanted to do the things that they were going to do. So it doesn't really matter. But propaganda isn't a permanent sort of stranglehold. The whole point of propaganda is it has to be constant. It has to be constantly. You need to convince the person or the target audience to convince themselves of the lies that is being told. Now, some of the interesting techniques that we find from for propaganda, I'll just zoom in a little bit here, but some of the very interesting ones is name calling, for example. And we see this all the time, right? Chuds, bigots, racists, even gamer is now being used as name calling to the group that doesn't want to accept the propaganda from the left. Then you have appealing to emotions. So propaganda often relies on emotional appeal to influence people's opinions. For example, propaganda might incite fear or create anger to get people to support a particular cause. So in other words, you want to make people feel as if this thing is the right thing to do. This is where words like this, inclusion, diversity, belonging come from. You see, who can argue with people wanting to feel included? No rational human being would argue with that. Who can argue with diversity? Just having people from multiple different backgrounds being diverse. No one will argue with that. Belonging. Who doesn't want people to feel like they belong, right? These are all words that we generally use in our ordinary day-to-day lives. Even outside of a woke context, we use these words. These words have emotional context and meaning, and that's why they've claimed these words for themselves, because they know how good it is. Then you have bandwagoning, for example. Bandwagoning is what we see with the media outlets. What happened with Dragon Age the Veilguard? As soon as Dragon Age the Veilguard launched, what happened? Every single media outlet everywhere told you this game is an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, maybe as low as 7 out of 10, even 10 out of 10. So it's bandwagoning. It's making you feel, as the gamer, as if you might actually be wrong. Since now you're playing Dragon Age the Veilguard, you're not actually liking it, but everyone is telling you that this is this is a brilliant game. So what are you supposed to believe? Am I wrong? Am I the one that's wrong here? Because everyone else seems to love this. How am I supposed to, why am I not liking this? Maybe there's something wrong with me, right? And that's usually where they get you. As soon as you start questioning your own motives, you start thinking, well, maybe I'm the one that's wrong. That's where they can now sort of start really working you and getting you over to their side. Scare tactics doesn't really happen a lot in the gaming industry. It's not like they can tell you if you don't play Dragon Age the Veilguard, the world will end. That's something we see more on a country-to-country scale, or like war. Manipulating information, again, this happens in the media. I didn't even highlight it because we see it, right? When you look at, for example, the reviews for Dragon Age the Veilguard, they will skirt around every issue that may actually highlight just how bad the game is. So they'll specifically put the good things ahead of the bad things, and they'll phrase the bad things in such a way that it justifies an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, even though the game obviously isn't an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Using false statistics, this is something we see a hell of a lot in the gaming industry, and very specifically, we nowadays see it a lot in how many men versus women play video games. You will very often hear that there are just as many women in video games as there are men. Just look at this study from the Pew Research Organization. This is supposed to be research done by the Pew polling guys. These guys are supposed to be ahead of the curve when it comes to video games, right? Or when it comes to polling people. And they find that basically 50-50 across the board, as many women as men play. But then, of course, it starts to fall apart when you actually go look at who plays what. Of all female gamers, nearly 44% of them play mobile exclusive games. So if it's 50-50 on PC and console, right, men and women, then this would mean that there are more women playing video games than what there are men. So, no. The fact is, when you actually look at research that show you how many men and women play video games by platform, and I've done a video on this in the past, you find that it is like 70% male to 30% female. And in some genres, like for example, Call of Duty, it's 90-10. 90% male versus 10% female. So Call of Duty's major push to try and get, adhere to the woke crowd is literally running directly counter to their target audience. They're literally creating not for their target audience. So yeah, just, false information, false statistics. It's used very, very often. And then, of course, we have slogans. Slogans is huge in propaganda. For example, have you guys seen this one? Warhammer is for everyone. Gaming is for everyone. These are the slogans that they live by. The whole point of these slogans is they sound good. On the surface, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, that's until you really start to look into it and you realize, wait, but what you mean to say actually is gaming is for everyone except white people. Gaming is for everyone except straight people. That's really what you're trying to do here. But of course, it's how it works. It's how it's supposed to work. The plain folks thing we see very, very often. The plain folks thing is what they would call the modern audience, right? For a modern audience. Games for a modern audience. The whole idea is that you, as the gamer, when you see these games and you don't particularly like these games, what you should understand is that if you want to be part of the modern audience, you have to start liking these games. The words are used very specifically in order to single you out, to make you feel like you are the other. That's why they don't say made for the woke crowd or made for the left wing. They call it the modern audience. And are you really not going to be the modern audience? Are you going to be like an old-timer behind the times fool? Like, seriously? That's what you're going to do here? Or do you want to actually be part of the modern audience? It's modern, it's hip, it's happening. This is where it's at. This is what they're trying to push. That's why they're sort of doing this appeal to plain folks, ordinary folks, not the chuds, not the gamers, but the ordinary gamer, the nice gamer. And then, of course, you have glittering personalities. This is, again, where things like the modern audience comes out. They're trying to glamorize the idea of being a gamer. This is why Tash comes in and she has this entire storyline around herself, and she is the absolute most badass character in the game. If you've played Dragon Age: The Veilguard, you will understand. Every single one of their female protagonists are sold to you as the greatest, holier-than-thou, best ever character, right? Because they're genuinely trying to convince you of the exclusivity of their games. And then finally, you have loaded language. Loaded language are things like return to form, right? Every single article said this. This Dragon Age: The Veilguard is truly a return to form of the Dragon of BioWare. It's loaded language. Now, there's plenty of other terms and phrases as well that they use. Once you know this, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. Trust me. Once you know these techniques that they're using, you'll start reading articles and you'll be like, wow, okay, this is just propaganda designed to be propaganda. Now, propaganda is incredibly, incredibly successful. Propaganda is what keeps dictators in power. So why exactly has the propaganda not really worked? Now, there's an article that I found by the American Historical Association that appears to suggest that propaganda, when it runs counter to the core beliefs of an individual. So in other words, when an individual hears something that is just so obviously, patently false, it is much harder to propagandize that person. Much, much harder. And in some cases, it is almost impossible to propagandize that person. This is why, in the West at least, the propaganda has started very, very early. We start propagandizing kids nowadays already in primary school. So in primary school already, you've all seen the videos of young kids walking through rainbow-covered hallways and walking through these arches of rainbows and holding each other's hands, boys and boys and girls, pushing the woke ideology, pushing this onto the kids, making it seem normal. This is how it is. This is how boys love boys, girls love girls. This is how it is. Then you see it going into high school. It sort of takes, it picks up a pace and it goes even harder. By the time you hit university, this is where they really crank up the style. This is where they'll start questioning everything and also push you to question everything. So it is no surprise that the people who are most susceptible to this woke nonsense are the college graduates. It's the young women and men that come out of college where everyone believes the same lies, and the pressure is a lot harder and a lot more profound upon you to believe what everyone else is saying, because you don't want to be the odd one out. One of their key sort of backlashes and one of the key reasons why it's failing, at least at a larger scale, however, and we should all thank Elon Musk for buying X. It's social media. You see, social media did something that these people in the media and in the gaming industry desperately did not want. It democratized information. No longer is the media or the mainstream media able to control the flow of information, able to control exactly what you see and what you hear. You can tune into a stream like mine, for example, today, and you can hear things that isn't sort of approved by the party, right? And I can show you information that they genuinely do not want you to have because of YouTube, because of Twitch, because of X. If they could gain control of X, if they could gain control of YouTube, if they could gain control of the online space, they would do it. The problem is the internet is very big and it's very difficult to gain control over it. But we have to be aware of this. These color schemes are not chosen by accident. Our video games are not made by accident. The replacement and the removal of female gamers isn't, the female personality, the female entity, it's not an accident. It is on purpose. And it is designed from the ground up to propagandize the audience. Have you ever wondered why these companies keep going? Why these DEI, ESG investors keep investing despite loss after loss? Ubisoft is on the verge of being taken over and destroyed, dismantled. You have BioWare on the verge of going bankrupt. EA, if it wasn't for their sports franchises, they would already be dead. Blizzard is in dire straits, with game after game coming out, kicking Blizzard in the nuts. Diablo just being kicked in the nuts by Path of Exile 2. You have Marvel Rivals absolutely wiping the floor with Overwatch 2. Fundamentally, every single one of these AAA studios are dying on the hill of ESG and woke nonsense, and yet the money seems to never stop coming in. Why? They're playing the long game. The people in charge, the people in power, the people that push the ESG, the WEF, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and his mates, they understand that they have to suffer losses in the short term. But their hope is that they'll be able to bank in the long term. Once they've either waited out all of us old guard gamers that are just the racist minority, or we will be converted. Because from their perspective, we should be converted. This is why billions upon billions of dollars every single year is spent on this nonsense. My next endeavor is going to be actually looking at the video game industry and every AAA game that has launched in the last 5 years. Budgets, losses, everything. I'm gonna try and get all of the information together so that we can actually compare and see just how much we've already lost in the video game industry as a result of this ESG woke nonsense. But for now, that is at least from the propaganda side. Be aware of this, guys, because it is happening and it is consistently happening. And you might say, well, Akko, this is something we all know. Yes, but not everyone knows this. That's the problem. A lot of people don't see it because a lot of people don't think that way. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this and if you agree or disagree. With college grads in Boston, race and politics never came up at work at a sports company. Rose Fox, the problem is that it is coming up a lot nowadays. I have a brother and a friend who work in the education system, and it comes up all the time now. It's not something you can escape. It is everywhere all the time. Okay, if they give me $1 billion, they can convert me. The successful developers will be bought up and corrupted. They're not converting anyone. David Chain, no, they're not. But remember, from their perspective, they're willing to wait. Because they at least think that they can do it. They genuinely believe that given enough time, they can convert everyone. And they will be able to turn everyone into absolute left wing. It just takes a bit of time, you know? So it is very important that as Fenrir, how you doing, bro? Michael, how you doing? Oh yeah, Michael, you are absolutely correct, by the way. The idea of the blank slate has been debunked time and time and time again. There is zero evidence that we are, in fact, blank slates. But for some reason, the people in power, the people that keep pushing this stuff, they just refuse to accept reality. They refuse to accept that people are not blank slates, and you can't just add whatever you want to people. This is not how it works. But, you know, they'll keep losing money, and we'll keep laughing at them as they do, I guess. You know, that's just where we are now. At least they expect to normalize the thing by targeting children. The problem is that people will always slip away once they realize the nature of the ideology. Amu, how you doing, bro? Yes, but I think when it comes to kids, I think a lot of parents are going to be where it's at, right? I think parents will have to realize just how incredibly toxic things have become. And then it'll be up to parents to put an end to this stuff, right? Because what else are you going to do? We'll keep calling it out for what it is. The only way they can win is by taking our freedom of speech. Kuro, and luckily we have people like Elon Musk. For all the things that you might think of Elon Musk, at least X is a place where people can still speak, which I think is one of the things they hate most. I genuinely think they despise the fact that X is a place where people can still think and still speak. But all right. Ladies and gentlemen, remember yesterday and the day before yesterday when I told you that there is a genuine fear of GTA 6 being woke? I showed you how the developers of GTA 6 speak internally about the gamers and the very people that's supposed to buy their video games. I showed you how Sweet Baby Inc. and Games for Diversity have been incredibly tightly linked to GTA 6. And of course, everyone and their mother in the comment section, well, not everyone, a lot of you agreed with me, but there were comments that said, dude, the game isn't even out yet. GTA will not be woke. Go, suck a D. We don't believe you. Well, Now it's no longer just rumor. It's no longer just rumor. Bloomberg, this is mainstream media, have heard straight from GTA 6, straight from Rockstar. Rockstar Games has directed the writers to be less crude towards minority groups. Are you still gonna sit there and pretend like GTA 6 isn't gonna be an absolute woke fiesta? I will remind you that GTA as a franchise has always been an equal opportunities offender. It offends everyone. That's the point of GTA. It turns every single person, every single demographic into a caricature of that demographic. A white man isn't just a white man. A white man is hillbilly trash. Another white man is your proper scumbag, gangster, mob affiliated dude, right? Whenever they choose a person, so Michael, for example, in GTA 5, sort of Italian, very much that old mobster kind of vibe to him. Bad husband, bad father, sort of couldn't care less about anything, no real morals, right? When they choose black people, they will go full-blown gangster, because that's the point of GTA. It has always been a game that pokes fun at everyone. You see, but here's the issue. If it now becomes a game that will not really poke fun at minority groups, what do you think is the flip side of this? What do you think happens on the other side of this little coin? It's a game that becomes an entire series of making fun of white people. Because if you can't have fun at the expense of minorities, well then the only people that are left are white people. So now the only people that will be ridiculed, the only people that will be made fun of will be white people. They'll be the ones that's dragged through the mud. It's basically, you see, because here's the thing. If I make a game and I ridicule everyone equally, that's not racist. That's just the game. For example, is South Park racist? No. Because South Park doesn't give a crap. Is Family Guy racist? No, because it doesn't give a crap. It offends everyone equally. The whole point is everyone should be equally offended while watching it. In that way, no one then is offended. But when you have protected groups that cannot be offended under any circumstance, and the only people you offend are the white people, then surprise, surprise, you have now made a very racist video game. Now, I realize and I recognize that GTA 6 will not fail. It's gonna make billions of dollars for Rockstar, and Rockstar is going to love the game because it's gonna make the money. The whole online sort of world of the game and the online aspect of the game is what's gonna carry the game. The sad part, of course, is that this will just make GTA or Rockstar realize that they can keep doing this. They can keep pushing, you know, super woke storylines, because why not? And anyone that's now going to go, dude, they didn't say you can't make fun of minorities. They just said less crude. Dude, that's corporate speak. Obviously, they realize that it will start a literal shitstorm if they told Bloomberg, yes, we told the writers you do not make fun of minorities. It will start a shitstorm. But if they just go, well, we told them to be less crude. That's corporate speak for don't make fun of minorities. And if you are going to make fun of them, make fun of funny things. You know, funny things that they can also laugh at. Don't be mean. Don't ever be mean to them. Don't ever say anything that could cause offense. That's the whole point of the less crude comment. So don't come in here with your nonsense. The other, of course, really, really troubling report here is that GTA 6 development has missed internal deadlines. Do you guys know what that is corporate speak for? Sweet Baby Inc. and the other woke consultants have demanded changes made that has delayed development. Every single game, it is funny, but every single game that has been attached to the Sweet Baby Inc. label has had internal deadlines that didn't quite hit, where they had to, push things back and sort of postpone things and sort of work around things or rush to finish things, because obviously the Sweet Baby Inc. people come in and they demand many changes as quickly as is possible. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. So if anyone wishes to take a bet with me as to whether or not GTA 6 will be woke, just DM me on Discord. I'd be happy to chat to you. Waifu, how you doing? Delayed due to last minute changes. Yup. Being protected from comedy ridicule is very toxic. Dude, the way you normalize things, I said this yesterday, I'll say it again, the way you normalize things is through comedy. By allowing people to joke about stuff, you allow people to feel more comfortable about the person or the individual that you're dealing with, right? If you remove the ability to joke, you immediately take away one of the key sort of inclusion tools that we as humans have. Have it on pretty much. The Duckman rant on comedy is gold. Wait, which Duckman rant is that, waifu? Abaddon, yeah, pretty much. But dude, Eddie Izzard is amazing. Well, was amazing. He became super woke in his later years. Another comedian that I super loved, because also before he became super woke, was Lewis Black. I loved Lewis Black. I'm still a huge fan of Jimmy Carr. I find him to be Kevin Bridges is another one that I really find. I was a huge fan of Sean Locke way back in the day. Obviously, well, not way back, but a few years ago still. He's not with us anymore. But yeah, there's still some decent comedians out there. Trevor Noah is just, he's gone so woke, waifu. It is impossible to listen to him now. He's gone so far off the deep end. And he's playing into all of the worst possible things. It's like, look, I am not going to sit here and suggest that there isn't racism in South Africa, because obviously there is, right? Obviously there is. I can see it myself. But if someone is going to pretend like racism in South Africa isn't a hell of a lot better today than what it was 20 years ago, or even 15 years ago, or even 10 years ago, they're just being dishonest, right? Because I was alive back then. I was alive in 2003. I finished matric in 2003. I can tell you, racism was a lot more embraced back in 2003 than what it is today. Today, when you get racist people, they'll sort of be like, oh, yeah, just whispering it, right? They won't be like super out there with it. Back in 2003, racism was an open secret. It was like people would just say racist crap, and that would be it. That would be the end of it. So yeah, I can't stand Henry Cavill. Trevor Noah. Henry Cavill, I can't stand. I'm going to be talking about him next. That's why I'm thinking of him now. Up against my Henry? No, I'm not going to. That's fighting talk. No. Like, looky here. Looky here, ladies and gentlemen. And you guys think that I just cover negative Nelly stuff, that I'm just always harping on about the woke stuff in video games. I do that a lot because there's a lot of woke stuff in video games. But every once in a while, we get something good. Every once in a while, the powers that be dribble down a bit of nectar from the gods to us starving little gamers, and we're all just sitting there going, and then it drips on your lips, and you go, and you almost don't want to swallow it because you don't know when you're going to get more of this, right? Because it's only every once in a while you get it. Well, our feast for today comes from Mr. Henry Cavill himself, the gamer's gamer, the real gamer. I will remind you, one of the only celebrities ever, when asked about the toxicity of the fan base towards The Witcher and The Witcher TV show, responded and said, I don't believe that it is toxicity, it is passion. Gamers are passionate about the universes that they play in, and they expect us to be loyal to those universes. That's the kind of man we're dealing with here. A dude that has no interest in the woke nonsense and instead just wants to make a Warhammer show. And, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce Henry Cavill himself. Now, I have the original Instagram post up here, but in the interest of you guys actually being able to read what is being said, we'll go over here and we'll talk about it. Now, this entire thing goes through a lot of detail around the show and how the show almost was cancelled and how the show couldn't really get off. There was like a lot of rumors around the show. And to be fair, I was also a little afraid that the show would never actually happen. We heard a lot of internal rumors from people saying Amazon wanted to go way too woke with the show, or, the people over at Games Workshop wanted to go too woke with the show and Henry wouldn't do it. But apparently, either those reports were false, or Henry Cavill managed to get them to back down so that he can make the story that he wants. So Henry Cavill says, to celebrate some Warhammer news, I decided to make a pilgrimage to the very place I bought Warhammer models over 30 years ago, the little shop on my home island of Jersey. My incredible team and I, alongside the brilliant minds at Games Workshop, have been working away in concept rooms, breaking down approaches to the enormity and magnificence of the Warhammer world. Together, we've been sifting through the plethora of incredible characters and poring over all tomes and texts. Our combined efforts have led us to a fantastic place to start our universe, which has been agreed upon by those up on high at both Amazon and Games Workshop. That starting place shall for now remain a secret. Watch this space though. More to come in time. Boys, it is happening. It is happening, and it is good. It is good. It is very good to finally know there is a Warhammer 40k show on the horizon, and it's going to be Henry Cavill that not only stars in it, because that has also been confirmed, by the way. He will be the main character in the first movie, or maybe TV series. But, and very specifically, unlike in The Witcher. So remember, in Witcher, Henry Cavill was super hyped to play Witcher, to play Geralt, specifically in Witcher. But Henry Cavill was not the showrunner of Witcher. And unbeknownst to Henry Cavill, the showrunner of The Witcher TV series didn't really care about The Witcher. What the showrunner cared about was politics and pushing politics. And the showrunner simply needed a very popular vehicle to allow the showrunner to push politics. So Witcher was very popular, so they went with Witcher. And what Witcher did was it allowed them the space to go, okay, now that we have the Witcher show, we'll have the main characters of the show be anyone but the actual Witcher. We'll focus far more on Ciri, a character, by the way, that features very little in the actual books, or Yennefer, again, a character that only ever features as it pertains to Geralt. Very often, it's very rare that you see either Ciri or Yennefer in the books without Geralt being present. Of course, that's not what they did in the Witcher TV show. And the problem there was that since Henry Cavill wasn't in charge of the show, he couldn't make demands. He couldn't say, well, I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that. At the end of the day, he ultimately ended up leaving the TV show. And if you still believe that he left the show because he wanted to do the Warhammer show, or he left the show because of something else, you are a moron. Henry Cavill has himself admitted that Witcher is one of his all-time favorite video games. It's one of his all-time favorite universes. When he heard that The Witcher was going to become a TV show, he personally emailed the showrunner and said, I want that. I want that. That was his personal request. So for him to walk off of set, I doubt would have happened if it wasn't forced. He just realized that that show is never going to be what he wanted it to be, and he wasn't going to be a part of it any longer. And for anyone that wants to wants to know how bad it got, watch season 3. I couldn't get past the second episode. That's how bad it ultimately got. Now he's in Warhammer 40k, and he's the showrunner. I.e., he's the one that makes all of the decisions. You want to go woke? Get the hell out of here. You want to do this? Get the hell out of here. We're doing it my way, because I am now the boss. And I, for one, think that's good. I'm really, really looking forward to that. What do you guys think? Are you guys hyped for the Warhammer TV series? Not sure if they make fun of the woke. It will be because they aren't woke enough. How do you mean, waifu? Cautiously optimistic. Spartan, why cautiously? And keeping to its heart. I don't necessarily know exactly how, because I've heard conflicting reports when it comes to Games Workshop. If you look at their actual universe, their universe really isn't woke. It can't really be woke. But then you also look at some of the most recent changes, and it does seem like they're going woke, at least to some extent. So it is sort of like a fear for me. I am a little afraid of what exactly happens next. Does this show eventually just fail under the pressure, or will we see them push back? Mirror, how you doing, bro? Because they can let him get into production and Rockbull fire him once it gets hyped. Spartan, I don't think that they will do that, because they can look at Witcher and the Witcher TV show to realize that gamers specifically have chosen Henry Cavill as the man. Even if the Warhammer TV show becomes mega popular, the second they rug pull and fire Henry Cavill, they'll lose their audience. Because that's exactly what happened to Witcher. The second they rug pulled him and he left the show got cancelled. Right? This is the last season. It'll come out and then there won't be another season, because they realized no one's willing to watch if Henry Cavill isn't there, which is obviously beautiful. Games Workshop has never been woke, but they've had no qualms with strong gay and female characters, which is fine, as that's how you do it if you're going to do it. I need to be clear, I've said this before, strong female characters is not a problem, strong gay characters isn't a problem, trans characters isn't a problem. You can add whatever characters you want to the show, as long as that character being gay or that character being trans isn't the only thing that character is. The biggest problem is that whenever gay characters are added in modern shows, the only personality trait that character has is that character is gay. And it's like, well, that's not normal. That's not how normal people do things. So I'm not sure why this character would do it this way. Not to turn themselves for an ideology. After Rings of Power, I have zero faith in Amazon to not self-destruct. So I do want to point out that when it comes to I've said this before, but when it comes to Amazon or Prime rather, are not the ones responsible for the wokeness of TV shows. If you want evidence of this, go look at the Tomorrow War, for example, or go look at Terminal List. In Terminal List, you have one of the most probably right-wing TV series I've ever seen in my life. And it was paid for by Amazon. It's an Amazon exclusive. Amazon doesn't give a crap whether a show is woke or unwoke or not. Like, they couldn't care less. Amazon cares only about making money. And if someone comes up to them and says, hey, bro, let's make some money, Amazon goes, you had me at bro. You know, so Amazon is like, let's just make some money. So when someone comes to them and says, we want to do Lord of the Rings TV series, they're happy to go for it, right? Because that's Lord of the Rings. It should make some money. And I'm not suggesting that there aren't ideologically charged individuals that work for Amazon. There definitely are. But there's also the case that a lot of the stuff that Amazon will put out isn't woke at all. Some of the stuff is super woke, but a lot of stuff isn't woke at all. So in my opinion, it's more a case of if Henry Cavill doesn't want to make the show woke, Amazon isn't going to interfere with that. But if someone does come to Amazon and want to do a woke show, Amazon isn't going to interfere with that. As long as you make a show, that's all they really care about. So I think just looking at Amazon, I don't think that's the problem. Because I don't think Amazon generally cares. And waifu, yes, the Tomorrow War is, I don't know why I love it so much, but I do love it, and I've watched it multiple times. Spartan, but this is exactly what I'm saying, right? There are definitely individuals at Amazon that are woke and that are willing to push woke. But I think if I look at Amazon correctly, I almost find Amazon to be the kind of company that goes, we'll put out shows for the super woke audience and shows for the super conservative audience, and we don't give a shit. Right? Terminal List for the super conservative audience, there you go. Rings of Power for the super woke audience, there you go, right? They don't seem to be really worried about either side of the political aisle. It's not, for example, like Netflix. When I look at Netflix, Netflix seems to have a genuine progressive bend. Every single TV series, every single movie that comes out of Netflix these days is just hyper woke. And they just keep pushing the hyper woke stuff. Netflix seems like the kind of place that goes, we don't care about the money, we care about the wokeness. Whereas Amazon seems more like an equal opportunities offender. They'll go woke, they'll go broke, they'll go conservative, they'll go right wing, they don't give a crap. Right? As long as it's a show, and I guess the main thing for them is it brings in subscriptions, you know, and people maybe stick around. Like, a lot of people came in for the Rings of Power season 1. They did subscribe to Prime, and then maybe they just, because I like Prime. I happen to prefer Prime to Netflix. There's a lot more stuff I can watch on Prime than on Netflix. So that might literally just be it. Rings of Power brings new people to subscribe, and that's really the only thing they care about. Because even if someone doesn't watch the whole season, they still subscribed, right? And so that's all that really matters. They have cut spending on Rings of Power significantly, Spartan. We covered it yesterday, but they have cut spending. The first season was the most expensive one. Then they realized, wait, this is shit. And so they've significantly cut spending on Rings of Power. The subsequent seasons have been very cheap, actually, to produce. Cheap, I say. But yeah, they've cut spending significantly. And also they spend almost no more money on marketing. So they no longer try to market the show that big. So maybe they found that it makes enough money with a much reduced budget where they're not too worried about it because it's there. It doesn't really matter. And I do know even people that I know, you know, people from my church that actually love the Rings of Power. They don't mind it. From their perspective, it's decent. So there are people who like it. I question people who like it, but there are people who like it apparently. Mirror, how you doing, bro? About 10 years of this ESG censorship. We need gaming back on track, unhindered. I love fan service, but only in Eastern games now. I agree with you, bro. Natsuno Sky, how you doing? That's why anime is better than any show. Media woke slop. Yeah, but aren't they turning anime into super woke stuff as well, Natsuno? All right. But I do have some good news. Guys, you know me, right? All of you know me. There are a few things in this world that genuinely make me happy. But Ubisoft catching D's and, basically being made to look silly is one of the things that genuinely makes me happy. Disney suffering is another one of those things that genuinely makes me happy. Like, I imagine if I was married and I read this article this morning, my wife would be in trouble. I would go downstairs and be like, honey, it's time, right? It's arousing to me when I see Disney lose money. It's the most fun thing ever. When I even read anything about Disney getting crapped on, it is amazing. And our story today is no different. So Disney Plus advertisers are abandoning ship as Star Wars and Marvel shows underperform. So Disney Plus is facing significant challenges as advertisers reportedly pull their campaigns from the platform. The streaming service's original content has failed to meet the impression threshold outlined in ad contracts, creating dissatisfaction among advertisers. The ad-supported tier of Disney Plus was intended to solve the company's streaming challenges. However, low audience engagement with major Star Wars and Marvel shows has led to below-average impressions. In response, Disney is reportedly trying to shift advertisers to broadcast television in an effort to retain their business and avoid costly refunds. The issue came to light in a recent video. Valiant, joined by Kiss My Grits, an advertising professional speaking anonymously, provided insight into Disney's struggles. Basically, what is happening with Disney Plus is struggling right now to fulfill the obligations that it's promising to its advertisers, citing conversations with industry contacts in New York City. And what I mean by that is, whenever you agree to advertise on a platform like Disney Plus, you are always guaranteed a certain amount of impressions, while Disney Plus is struggling to fulfill the obligations that they have been promising. So they're under-delivering by vast amounts on several of the campaigns that are running on that platform. And as a result of what is happening is the advertisers are obviously not very happy. And so they are pulling money from those campaigns. They're saying, all right, if you're not meeting the delivery that you promised me, I'm placing that money elsewhere. Now, KMG further explained that advertisers have lost faith in Disney Plus as a platform and are redirecting their ad dollars to cable and broadcast networks. So this is beautiful, right? This is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, you have the show from, what's her name? The Y2K thing that's failed miserably to make any sort of money once again. The ad-tier subscription numbers are nowhere near what they assumed they were going to get. Valiant highlighted Disney's immense streaming costs, emphasizing 4 shows: The Acolyte, Loki Season 2. See, dude, whatever happened to Loki Season 3? People loved Loki. Loki was actually a good show, but apparently it wasn't woke enough. Secret Invasion and Andor. Secret Invasion, by the way, also apparently really didn't do that well. That collectively cost the company $1 billion to produce. That is nuts. Despite this investment, none of these shows topped streaming charts and received an average audience score of 57.8 on Rotten Tomatoes. The problem was, as we pointed out, especially with Andor, which is now a year and a half ago, that the audience simply didn't justify the expense that was made to produce the show. Those 4 shows combined to cost Disney $1 billion in production, and that doesn't include whatever Disney Plus then spent to advertise these shows. What's interesting to me is Andor is actually a good show. I don't know if any of you have ever watched Andor, but Andor actually is a good show. I don't know how it would cost you that much money to produce, though. Like, what? I don't get it. Like, why would you... Why? Because at its core, it's not a show with insane graphics. It's not really, it's just a normal show. So I don't know what the hell happened there that made it cost that much. But David Chang, building sets in video games or in movies isn't new, right? Sets have always been there. So I'm not entirely sure why they would go, like, I think it has to do with just obscene nonsense, because most of these studios just waste a bunch of money. And if there's any truth to this, I was watching this podcast, this was like a few years ago already, from between Matthew McConaughey and someone else, where Matthew McConaughey explained just how corrupt Hollywood actually is, where he explained, so in order to do anything in Hollywood, it's not just a case of you get a camera guy and you go. No. You get the camera guy then informs you that he will only work if you use these cameras from these guys. And then in order to get these cameras from these guys, you must use these guys. And then these guys have to bring in these guys. And the set builders have to do this, and you have to do this. And they will only work with these guys from there. So it basically turns into, in order to run a movie, you end up with hundreds, if not thousands of people that are basically unnecessary on the set. Like, you don't actually need all of those people there, but they have to be there, or else the people that you actually need will not work. Right? So it's basically like this whole nepotism thing where you just need a cameraman and some sound guys. But the cameraman needs these people on. The sound guys need these. So you're basically just stuck with this massive group of people that most of them don't do anything that you really require on set, but they must be there, or else the people that you do need won't work. So it is nuts. So all of this, by the way, comes, and then there's a new thing that just happened for Disney. So Disney is already in trouble, as you can see here. It's not good, right? It's not good. They keep losing money. They keep losing advertisers. And then you have Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew has flopped as well, which is also very beautiful to see. It really just feels like all of these companies are constantly getting kicked in the nuts. Interestingly, Disney and Hulu had no streaming originals in the top 10 for that week. Netflix, Paramount Plus, Prime Video, and Peacock claimed all 10 spots, leaving Disney notably absent. This outcome spells trouble for Disney and Lucasfilms. An exclusive report from the Valiant Renegade YouTube channel revealed that Disney Plus advertisers... Alright, so you guys see the trend here. They keep pushing new shows. The new shows keep failing. And now, now, remember guys, the advertisers was already in response to not enough people signing up for Disney Plus. It is important that you know this. So a few years ago, I think it's about a year and a half ago, we found out that Disney Plus is costing Disney millions of dollars. And there's not enough people signing up for Disney Plus to actually make money. And so Disney was one of the first streaming services that came up with this idea of advertisers. So now if you don't, you can go for the most expensive package and then you don't get ads, but then you can have like cheaper packages that will guaranteed give you some ads, right? So that's sort of the whole shtick that they sort of went with. Now even the advertisers aren't getting money. The advertisers are going, dude, I don't feel like I want to do this. This is nonsense. Like, you guys aren't getting enough views even for me to advertise on your site. So their response to not making money is now also not making money. That it is just beautiful. So yeah, okay, so Skeleton Crew, it had its first 2 episodes combining a runtime of approximately 75 minutes. Looking at top 10 streaming shows for this week, it's striking the Paramount Plus secured 4 spots, while a new Star Wars property failed to chart. Dude, we are genuinely in the end times now, when Star Wars can no longer bring in audiences. It used to be that no matter what Star Wars does, it will always bring in the audience. The audience might complain about how bad Star Wars is, but they will always come, right? They'll always arrive. So it's kind of weird to me that Star Wars isn't even doing this anymore. But, ladies and gentlemen, you might be thinking, well, this is the end of Disney. No. Disney has a plan. Their plan? They're bringing back Chris Evans. They're bringing back Captain America to the Marvel Universe because they've realized, shit, all of our, like, actual characters aren't working. Like, Anthony Mackie isn't really the Captain America that people wants to see. Which is funny because apparently Anthony Mackie is quite annoyed at the fact that they're bringing back Chris Evans for this show specifically. That it works for them. No, I don't think it will work either. The main problem, of course, is that for most of the people, the problem isn't just the actors. Right? The problem isn't just the actors. The problem is the writing. It's all good that you know, I look at Chris Evans and I see Captain America. And that's great. But the writing has to be good around that. If the writing doesn't work around that, then, well, I'm not going to watch, even if Chris Evans is Captain America. And the same goes for Tony Stark, right? If Robert Downey Jr., I love him as an actor, if he's in a movie, I tend to watch those movies. But if the writing is going to be crap, and, well, Disney at this point has a very bad track record when it comes to writing. I mean, you can look, for example, at Indiana Jones, another Disney fiasco. For those of you that didn't know, they are blaming the fans. Just wanting to highlight this to you. According to the director of the new Indiana Jones film, James Mangold, the show didn't fail, or the movie didn't fail because it was shit. No, the movie failed because of the fans. So you have a wonderful, brilliant actor who's in his 80s. So I'm making a movie about this guy in his 80s. But his audience, on one other level, doesn't want to confront their hero at that age. And I'm like, I'm good with it. We made the movie. But the question is, how would anything have made the audience happy with that, other than having to start over again with a new guy? And then here come lifelong heroes from my childhood into my life going, we have something for you to work on. It was a joyous experience, but it hurt in the sense that I really love Harrison and I want the audience to love him as he was and to accept that that's part of what the movie has to say. That things come to an end, that's part of life. Dude, the fact that you think the problem with your movie was that Harrison Ford was a little too old is, in my opinion, the biggest problem here. Have any of you watched Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? It's really bad. Like, really bad. The writing is terrible. The acting is very subpar. Most of what happens in the movie is unbelievable. And I don't mean unbelievable as in, oh, I could barely believe it. Unbelievable as in things are happening and you're looking at it going, that wouldn't happen. Like, that's not how it would happen. Harrison Ford finds himself in scenarios that is so easy to diffuse, so easy to get out of, and yet that's the big thing. Ooh, and you go, well, just walk through the door, bro. Like, it's not that difficult. The show, the movie felt like it just tried to chase highs. It had no real build-up to anything. It didn't really feel like it was paying off in any way. The writing is incredibly bad. None of the jokes hit. Like, I sat through that entire movie, and you could tell they were really trying to bring in some comedy. But the comedy doesn't do anything. You just sit there going, nothing funny ever happened. So yeah, the movie didn't fail because Harrison Ford is old. The movie failed because you don't know how to direct the film, and the writers that you had are terrible. That's why the movie failed. Not because Harrison Ford happens to be old. But ladies and gentlemen, that's Disney doing well. 2024 really is the year of Disney, you know? 2025 is probably going to deliver in this same space. I can't wait to see what Disney is going to come up with in 2025. Ooh. I come up with a better plot to hand over Indy's hat to someone younger, a respectful way. Michael, you could literally have done that, and I think audiences would have liked it, because it's not I hate to say it, but it's not as if Indiana or Harrison Ford being Indiana Jones is, like, in my mind, super important. You know, I don't really care who plays Indiana Jones. As long as it's a fun story to watch. Forced takeover of MS. Do not pay the CEOs a saint. Maybe other gaming companies would have to follow suit to make the dream a reality. Mirror, I'm right there with you, bro. I am right there with you. Know what funny? Watching Disney, epic fails priceless. Wastelock, I'm right there with you, man. I could sit for days and just watch Disney fail. It makes me happy. And it's not because I'm like this, you know, this Grinch that doesn't like people succeeding. In fact, I want nothing more than the gaming and the movie industry to succeed, because I like watching movies. I like watching series and I love playing video games. But I want them to succeed by making good shows and by moving away from politics. So the reason I celebrate Disney dying isn't because I don't want Star Wars movies or Star Wars TV series. It's that I don't want them to succeed in the woke space. As long as they make woke movies and woke video games and woke television series, I want each and every one of those TV series, shows, and movies to fail. Because if they make a success of any of those shows, this is only going to embolden them to keep going with the woke stuff. So every single time a company comes up with a woke idea, I celebrate the concept of that company failing. And I'm sorry, yes, developers being fired from woke companies, I lose no sleep. I do not cry over it. I am not sad over it. You might think that makes me an evil person, but you are to blame. You made a woke video game. You went along with it. You could have jumped ship. You could have told your director or your lead developer, I don't want to do this. This is nonsense. And then you could have found a new job. But no, you kept taking the bag. You kept taking your paycheck. Now you're going down with the ship, and I don't care. I'm sorry, but I don't. This whole sort of, I don't know why we now live in an era where somehow we all have to pretend like artists matter. Like artists are these incredibly special individuals without whom the world would not function. Dude, plumbers are more important than you. The world wouldn't function without plumbers. Without artists, the world would be fine. Maybe a little bit more dull, but it would be fine. Artists are not special. In no way, shape, or form should they be treated as such. It's the weirdest thing. We have this society now where either artists are being, you know, sort of deified. Is that the right word? Deified? Now I have to see. What does deified mean? Turned into a deity, right? Is that correct? Yeah. Deified. Thank you. It's either artists being deified or scientists being deified. There's this constant push of people to just wanting to deify individuals that should not be deified, right? Educators, for example, is the new thing. Educators are deified now. They're so important to the world. No, they're not. Like, look, I, for one, love progress. I love progress. And I realize without educators, progress would be a hell of a lot slower, if at all. But I would like to inform you that society has existed for thousands of years without scientists and educators. And society was just fine. We could eat, we could live, we could build houses, and we could do shit. So you're not a god. You're important. And your job should be valued. But you're not a god. and you don't really matter that much, right? Again, you're not the most important person. I hate that we do this to people, especially people who don't deserve it. If you want to deify someone, deify your electrician or deify your plumber, because at least he's serving an active role in your life that makes your life a hell of a lot better than, you know, whatever the hell the artist is doing making a video game. People need to know there is a limit on crazy, and DI goes beyond that limit. True. In like 2 years, artists are going to be out of a job because AI is just going to be better and faster plus cheaper. I do think a lot of artists are going to lose their jobs. True. Kashima, how you doing? The thing is, Tekla... oh, you're Indonesian? Welcome. Happy to have you here. The thing is, Tekla, the wokies love to see BG3 as their win. They're wrong, of course, because BG3 isn't a win for the wokies. BG3 wouldn't be a woke game, and I would never describe BG3 as a woke game. And I think anyone that does describe it as woke simply don't know what woke means. They're moronic and they don't understand it. So yeah, it is what it is, right? The artist didn't object when the factory closed down? No, of course not. BG3 valued player choice. Yeah, and that's all we've ever been asking for, right? Is people honoring player choice and allowing us to choose the things that we like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in our next story, I'm gonna say the title for this video is probably going to offend a lot of people, but I mean it when I say you do not hate game developers enough. In fact, I would go so far as to suggest that we should treat game developers exactly the same way we treat the government. They should be viewed as the enemy until they prove themselves friendlies. Because there are far too many game developers that, trust me, despise you. And I don't mean just sort of dislike you pleasantly. They despise you. Our story today comes from a developer for the Perfect Dark, the remake of Perfect Dark, who had some things to say about gamers in particular. So the level designer for Perfect Dark claimed gamers were a mistake, and that's just one in a long line of incendiary statements the developer lobbed at paying customers. Before you think to yourself, dude, that's just one developer, I'll remind you that this guy still has his job. The studio behind Perfect Dark did not fire him for saying the things that he said. And I'll just point out, I don't know how we got here. I don't exactly know why we are here. But it seems to me that gaming is the only industry in the world where you can actively tell your customers to get the hell out, swear at your customers, make your customers feel worthless, and not lose your job. In every other industry, if you worked at Walmart and a customer walked through the door and you told that customer, you were a mistake, get out of here, you filthy retard, what do you think would happen to you? You'd be fired on the spot. Your manager would walk up to you and would fire you there and then. In all other industries, no matter how rude a customer is, you have to stay pleasant. That's just the rules, right? That's how it works, but not in gaming. Not at all. So the designer's long-standing hatred for the very people that keep him employed was exposed by John Trent of Fandom Pulse in a recent article. So here's the first little bit of information for you. The fact that it's 2021 and gamers still get mad over a character being black just boggles my mind. That's, by the way, not why gamers were angry at Angbroda or Angboda. People were angry because this used to be a white character. And then the character was race swapped to be black for no other reason than having a token black character in the show, right? So it's time to grow up, you racist pigs. All right? Angbroda looks absolutely stunning. Props to all the devs who worked on her. She's without a doubt the most interesting character. I mean, not much happened, but it is what it is. And apparently we're racist pigs for not preferring, you know, race-swapped characters in our video games. Okay, so the race swapping of Angbroda is a creative decision many attributed to malign narrative design firm Sweet Baby Inc., which worked on the Santa Monica Studio title. Then you have, of course, Laura Bailey, that speaks about how she received death threats after playing Abby. Now, at the time even, I and many other gamers said that we do not agree with death threats, especially death threats being sent at the voice actress. It's like, dude, come on, what? The voice actress had nothing to do with the character. They're just voice acting the character. And of course, this is where Colby responds, says, gamers were a mistake. I'm sorry, what? The very people that pay your salary is a mistake? That seems a bit harsh, but it gets worse. It gets so much worse. So Colby has another big claim for us here. He says, if adding female protagonists to video games is all it takes to make the worst people you've ever met not want to play them, we should add female protagonists to every game. 3.9k likes from Mr. Colby here. This is the kind of people that we're working with. These are the kinds of developers working on our video games. And every single one of the developers in the AAA space, with almost every single, I would say, maybe there's a handful of developers in the AAA space that don't agree with people like Colby Payne, but I can tell you, the overwhelming majority of developers do agree with him. Then, of course, you have shit like this, seeing a lot of comments turned off for Pride Month posts. I wish all bigots to kindly F off and learn to love others who they are for who they are. Colby, you are contradicting yourself in your own post. I demand that you love me for who I am. Someone who thinks pride is an absolute waste of space and should not exist. There is no reason for it. Because guess what? The big problem that I have with the pride parades and pride in general is, first and foremost, pride parades in the West have turned into absolute debauchery. I don't know if when's the last time you guys have seen these pride parades, but it is disgusting, the stuff that they do during those pride parades. Things that otherwise would be illegal. If you and I did those things in public outside of a pride parade, we would be arrested. 100%. And yet, because it's a parade, they're allowed to walk around half naked, sometimes fully naked. Even in some of these parades, they will have sex with each other, and there's parents that bring their kids to this shit, right? So I think pride is a complete mistake, but not just because it's absolute filth and debauchery, but also because it's not necessary. No one gives a crap. Oh, you're bisexual? Cool. You're gay? Couldn't care less. You're trans? So what? No one cares. Live your life and leave everyone else alone. The fact that you keep thinking you need special times to be yourself is bullshit. You're yourself all the time, and you're annoying because you keep reminding every one of us that you are yourself. Just stop reminding us of this. And the other reason why these posts about pride keep getting the hate that they get is because it's from companies that bend over backwards when it comes to China and the Middle East, where they will actively, like Disney, for example, remove the black character from the movie poster in China while pretending like they really care about minorities in the West. BMW, for example, every single year they have the little pride logo, you know, the whole BMW logo being turned into a pride flag. Guess where that doesn't happen? China and the Middle East. This incredibly progressive company that cares so deeply about gay people don't care about gay people in the two places in the world where it actually matters. Right? Where things like, not even China. China just doesn't like gay people. But in the Middle East, where gay people get thrown off of rooftops. You don't think your pride flag matters there? No, of course it doesn't. Because it's all just pretend. That's all this is. The reboot of Perfect Dark has already come under fire from the gaming world due to the modern day redesign of its main character. We spoke about this, but you can see here, this is what the character used to look like. This is what the character looks like now. Do you guys notice anything here? Like, what jumps out at you as a very interesting little factoid here between these two characters? Character 1 and character 2. I would say the jawline is a lot more pronounced on character 2. But yeah, this is just where we are now in the gaming industry, right? Yeah, I mean, this jawline would make most men jealous. You know, she's got the jawline of a man half her age. But yeah, it is what it is. It's truly wild to me that we have to deal with developers like this in the gaming space. But here we are. You know, and it's going to continue to happen until these people lose their... Dude, I don't even know if it's the trans agenda. And the reason I say I don't understand, or I don't know if it's the trans agenda, if you've ever spent time talking to trans people, every single trans woman I've ever met, when they make their characters in video games, they make them hyper feminine. Like, the most feminine character you can imagine. Because obviously, the trans person is trying to role play what they want to be in life, right? They don't want to role play a character that looks as if it has masculine features, because that's the opposite of what they want to role play. That's the opposite of what they want to be. So it's not even something that is adhering to the trans community, because the trans community would be perfectly happy with hyper feminine characters, right? Yeah, trans people try to pass. The whole point is they try to go through life without being recognized. So even insofar as this is the whole problem I have with people pretending like gender doesn't exist and that there's no such thing as gender and it's all a social construct. It's like, wait a second, isn't that harming trans people? Like the very people you claim to want to protect? Because if gender is just a social construct, then the trans woman should just stop believing that they're a woman and instead just be a man. Because it's just a construct, right? It doesn't actually exist. It's not real. So then why the hell are you transitioning from one to the other? It doesn't make any sense. Except, of course, when gender does exist and it is an actual thing, then it makes a lot more sense. So the very sort of policies that they seek to implement appear to be the very policies that are harming the people that they claim they want to protect. So no one understands what the point is of any of this. Right? None of this makes any sense to me, at least, as to why we keep seeing women be erased from video games. I don't understand it. And what's worse, we fight it, we men fight it, and then the women call us bigots for fighting on their behalf. Women are being erased in video games. And for some reason, white middle-class women are fighting against us, trying to keep them represented in video games. It is absolutely bonkers. You can't make this shit up. I think it's more about forcing cis men to play as trans characters, in my opinion. That is why they focus so hard on forcing androgyny. I can see that. I can definitely see that as part of the problem. Like some flat-chested broads like Jovanovic. Dude, Jovanovic is hot. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Jovanovic is really hot. Like, dude, it is the one from Resident Evil, right? Because she is fine. Our last story for the day is going to blow your penises off. It is a big one. Yeah, Fifth Element as well. That was a good movie, man. It's sad that that never got a remake because that was a brilliant movie. The graphics is bad now because it's obviously super aged. But I would say Fifth Element, another one that I super loved was Total Recall, I think. Was also insanely good. Monster Hunter movie was also good, actually. I enjoyed it. But then it was so good and they would butcher a remake. Well, Spartan, imagine if it was a remake done by people that actually know how to make good movies. Right? So don't imagine it as like a remake done by people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. Think about actual good developers or good filmmakers remaking Fifth Element. No, please don't do a remake for modern audience. Anonymous Coward, when I say remake, I'm not talking about remaking it for the modern audience. Nothing should be made for the modern audience, let alone remade for the modern audience. I'm suggesting if they did a remake and they got someone that actually knows how to make films and did a full remake of Fifth Element with new graphics and new special effects and stuff like that, that would just be brilliant. She still owes me for cinema tickets after some later Resident films. Why does she owe you, Tekla? What? I will be honest, some of the older Resident Evil films did get really bad. Like the later ones. I would say the first 3 were decent. The first one was probably the best. Actually, no, I think the second one was my favorite. The third one was okay-ish, but then it just became not that great. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, our final story comes as a bit of an expose. It is informational. It's something that you need to be very much aware of. We were just talking about Disney and just how much I love seeing Disney go bankrupt. How much I love seeing Disney lose money consistently in the gaming, movie, and TV series space. But it turns out that Disney themselves don't really know why they're losing so much money. They don't really understand what it is about their shows and their movies that is allowing them to fail as magnificently as they do. Because Disney is once again doubling down, tripling down at this point, quadrupling. I don't know how many times they've gone down, but at this point they're on their knees constantly, smiting like a donut for every single ESG, DEI, woke concept they can find. Kathleen Kennedy is absolutely covered in the excrement of DI and ESG. She literally is a money shot from old school pornography at this point when it comes to, the scenes between her and ESG. But Disney is forcing Quantic Dream to erase white characters from the upcoming Star Wars Eclipse video game. Pressure is on from alleged Sweet Baby puppet masters. So in this report, things are actually it's starting to look as if Sweet Baby Inc. is that. Remember yesterday, I made a video where I alluded to the fact that, or where I theorized that I don't think Sweet Baby Inc. or the PAL group or Gamers for Diversity or Games for Diversity, I don't think any of these groups are actually owned by the people that claim that they own them, right? I think that all of these games, or all of these companies, are actually owned by much larger investors that have a vested interest in this ESG stuff. So it is a cabal of just filth and corruption that runs from the top down. This sort of leak might put a lot more credence on my initial, let's call it, conspiracy theory. And as far as I know, I'm the only one that sort of had that conspiracy theory. So we'll see if it turns out to be true in the coming months or so. So insiders close to the development of Star Wars Eclipse video game have come forward to blow the whistle on Disney and Lucasfilms. The scoop comes from YouTube creator Endymion, who spoke with a number of sources close to Quantic Dream and Disney Lucasfilms for more than 2 hours. According to these sources, the game could be in development for another 5 years. Despite a strong story and narrative elements that Endymion claims are worth getting excited over, Disney inserted DI mandates into the game's production, mandating that there be ample inclusion of pride values and no white playable characters. So here's what Endymion was said to him. From what I was told, there was originally about 2 white playable characters in the game, but this has also now changed as well. I wasn't told names of the characters or anything, but there's this one white woman in the trailer. This character is no longer a white woman anymore. She was one of the playable characters, but Disney apparently forced Quantic to make her a black woman, citing that they were completely against white representation within the game. The only other white character, from what I'm told, is a man who ends up getting gravely injured and becomes a cyborg or some sort of robot. Now, I have heard similar rumors coming from Star Wars Eclipse, specifically about the cyborg or the robot. We had another insider, I think it was about a month ago, maybe a month and a bit ago, that claimed that they've taken the one male character in Star Wars Eclipse, and they've turned them into a robot instead. So Disney refused to allow any heroic white representation in Eclipse whatsoever. This mandate came directly from the company, and also Endymion revealed the pride-centric advocacy group GLAAD. So apparently, according to these insiders, Sweet Baby Inc. gets their marching orders from GLAAD. GLAAD, by the way, is a super gay organization. And they push for gay rights and all this stuff in the West, specifically in America. Apparently, it is not even Sweet Baby Inc. that makes the rules. It's GLAAD that tells Sweet Baby Inc. what to do. And this is where we sort of get to that conspiracy theory where GLAAD themselves, being for pride and being for, sort of gay rights and stuff, it wouldn't make sense for GLAAD to be in video games, right? Most people would see GLAAD as being part of the video game development and go, but I don't understand why is a gay rights advocacy group helping make video games? That makes no sense. But if GLAAD has sort of patsies like Sweet Baby Inc., like Games for Diversity, like the PAL group, through which they can influence games, that starts to make perfect sense, right? So Sweet Baby Inc. isn't the true problem here. So here's what GLAAD, as I'm told, has insane amounts of power when it comes to what they want to see in media. So much so that they can even stand shoulder to shoulder with places like Disney when it comes to injecting DI into content going forward. They told me that Rockstar is also very heavily invested and influenced by the power of GLAAD. It kind of makes sense, right? Because GLAAD has this entire vehicle behind them. From the government of the US, at least used to be. Now that Trump's in office, we'll see how that plays out. But from governments, even the UK government in this respect, to massive media presence and online presence, it kind of starts to make sense. And for those of you that might be unaware of how much they hate white people, here is the founder of Sweet Baby Inc. on why she started Sweet Baby Inc. I covered this yesterday. So the idea for Sweet Baby Inc. came to Bel Air when she was playing Mass Effect 2 and decided that allowing players to choose the race and gender of their protagonists was problematic. Here's her own words. She noted feeling negatively about the fact that she was witnessing her black female character speaking to another black character, and not everyone was having that experience. So when you think Disney is trying to remove the white representation, she's not, this isn't wrong and it's not too far-fetched. From Kim Belair herself, Sweet Baby Inc., who, by the way, is working on Star Wars Eclipse. Kim Belair doesn't want white people in video games. because Kimball Air herself says that people should experience black female characters speaking to other black characters. That is all that matters in the video game industry, at least as far as she's concerned. He goes on to say that Disney via Lucasfilms and its much maligned studio head Kathleen Kennedy are moving Star Wars even further away. They're injecting pride ideology and identity politics into all projects moving forward. Disney would make demands to Quantic Dream to enforce things like non-gendered representation within Eclipse as well. What this means is Disney mandated that Quantic Dream add stuff like male aliens in female clothing. The goal of Eclipse, according to my sources, was a broader initiative by Disney as a whole. They want to redefine what Star Wars is to the audience at large. There are multiple projects that are a part of this initiative. The first being, of course, the Acolyte, which unsurprisingly is also in the High Republic era. Eclipse is also a part of this agenda going forward too. As I'm told, the goal here is to transition Star Wars from what it was into an exclusively non-white, non-straight future going forward. So you can already see that there's probably going to be eventually remakes of the original 6 Star Wars, but they're now doing it a lot more methodologic. They're following a lot more, what's the word? Methodically. That's the word I'm looking for. They're following a more sort of strict methodology. First, change the history, and then you can change the present. So you go back in time, everything that predates the original movies, make that non-white, non-straight, everything woke. Now you can remake the 6 original films, make them super woke, non-white, non-straight, and it's normal, right? It's normal because, look, there are no straight people in Star Wars. We have the history here. There are no straight people in Star Wars. It is consistent with how we want to sell our video games moving forward, or our movies moving forward. Disney wants to peel away the whiteness from Star Wars specifically. While Sweet Baby Inc. is a big problem for sure, GLAAD is the puppet master pretty much for all of this. GLAAD tells Sweet Baby how high to jump, and then they just do as they're told. And as I said, this would not surprise me. I would not be surprised if this is indeed true, because I have been wondering and thinking about how all of these woke consultants keep getting positions and jobs. I've been trying to figure out where does the money come from and why is the money being paid, because none of these consultants appear to be making good games. They don't appear to make a difference to these games until you realize that most of these companies live in perpetual fear of pissing off GLAAD, because GLAAD is big. And from the rumors that I've heard, if you piss off GLAAD, you're pretty much done. Like they will make your life a living hell until you apologize and or are closed down. So this is where I think all of this actually comes from. And it's pretty wild. If true, of course. We don't know. These are just reports, insider trading, as it were. We'll have to wait and see. But if you are someone that works in the industry, if you are someone that knows someone that works in the industry, please direct them. I would love to talk to them. And you will always be anonymous. My sources will always be protected. So please reach out to me pretty much anywhere. They can't censor my Blu-ray collection. Darth Vader be like Mistresses Vaderix. Well, yeah, or Darth Vader is going to be queer, you know? Luke, I am not your father because I would never have sex with a woman, but I raised you. Maybe that's what they maybe that's the future of the story. I don't know. We'll see. Dude, these people are so high up on their own horses. It is nuts. Luke, I am your birthing person. Yeah. Luke, I am your birthing person. Oh, man. Oh, that is... Oh. Oh, that is... Dude, just reading that is cringe. Like, their language is just so cringe. I hope they go through with it. I want to see Disney burn. I hope that Star Wars Eclipse is the most woke piece of trash on Earth. It would make me happy. It genuinely would make me happy. Yeah, I kind of appreciate the fact. So cheap, Musk ends up buying it. I don't think Musk will buy it, Avedon. I think Musk has a lot of things that he wants to buy. I highly doubt that Musk would buy Disney. Although maybe he will do it just out of spite. But didn't Musk, he's starting his own gaming company now. So I think Musk is, instead of buying these companies, Musk will probably just start his own thing. Plus, there's a lot of Hollywood actors and people in Hollywood that's already starting non-woke studios. You have Matthew McConaughey that's starting his own thing, I think. Then you have the guy that did Passion of the Christ, and Persons of Interest. They're starting their own thing now. You have Mel Gibson that started his own non-woke film studio now. So effectively, there are movements currently happening within the movie space of Hollywood actors that have had enough, that just do not want to do more of it. Matt Mikkelsen, we covered him yesterday. He's starting his own stuff now as well, right? So I do think there are a lot of movements within the space. Guys, you want to see what movies used to be like? On Netflix, I will do anything. There's a movie. Oh, Mirror, thanks for the super chat, man. Really appreciate you. Thank you for speaking about, and God bless you all. God bless you too, man. Really appreciate you. Thank you. There's a movie on Netflix called What Women Want. It's from Mel Gibson. Go watch it. It is funny as hell. It is funny as hell. And it's old school. It truly is like old school Hollywood. It just doesn't give a crap. It's a really cool movie. Yeah, you need to go watch that if you haven't already. But all right. Guys, I think that's going to be it. I have to go edit all of these videos. I don't think I'm going to be live today on Twitch. I have choir practice this evening, sort of early. So the problem is, by the time I'm done with editing all of these videos, by the time I can go live, there's going to be like 2 hours left before I have to leave for choir practice. So there's really no point in live streaming. Normally, Wednesdays isn't choir practice, but there's only 2 weeks left before the concert. So we kind of have to fit it in everywhere. So I'll be back tomorrow with more Path of Exile 2. So look out for the videos. There's going to be a lot of videos again today. A lot of videos. So yeah, look out for those. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And I will see all of you in the next one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and spending your morning with me, or my morning with me, your evening, or maybe your early morning. I really appreciate all of you. Peace.